What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Big Little Kid Podcast. It's your boy Jay Whitaker, and I am here with a wonderful guest. She is the debutante of Dorchester. I love that name, by the way. I love that name, Laura Severse. Everybody,
I
round of
got that from
applause.
my mom.
Really, I love
Yeah.
that. I always wonder. I always wondered, like, where that came from. But as soon as, as
So, okay, sorry.
soon as I heard it, I was like, I'm in.
So when we were growing up, she would say oh, like she grew up in Dorchester as did I,
Mhm.
obviously. And she would say like how there were certain girls in Dorchester that thought they were like kind of above Dorchester. Like back then, of course, she was born in the 1940s, so there were kind of tiers back then.
Right.
And she'd be like, "Oh, they just thought they were like Dorchester debutantes," but it's like a slam because it's like, how are you going to be a debutante in Dorchester? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And I just love that so much. And I remember when I was my stupid Twitter handle, I'm like, I'm gonna be the Dorchester debutante. Why not?
It's no,
And
it's such
I
a
just
great Twitter handle. I as soon as I you were one of those people when I first moved here. I was like, you popped up on my radar, and like people were telling me, Corey Rodriguez, shout out to him. He gave, he was like,
I
he
love
just
Corey.
listed like who you should rock with and like just people to learn from, and because the New England scene is so different, it's yeah, it's just an adjustment. And so like you were one of those people that came up as to far as people that I need to pay attention to kind of like just study how you handle audiences, because the audiences here are
Aggressive.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
aggressive. And like you just got to kind of be prepared for it. I'm not used to that coming from the sunshiny West Coast, and where the audiences are like, oh, you're trying your best, it's great,
I love that.
right.
That is so true too, because I have to tell you, like in 2019, I was out. My best friend lives out in San Diego,
Mhm.
and I was like, went out to just visit her for a week, and I was going to do shows out there, and they laughed at every single thing I said, and I'm like, oh, these people are really nice. Like these are
Yeah.
very sweet people who they're here to laugh and they're having fun. Like I could do throwaway lines of just absolute garbage. They'd be
Right.
like, oh my God.
It's
Like
like
I
you're
murdered.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, and it's nuts because like I remember when I did Jersey the first time I ever did Jersey, and I did like it was the first joke I threw out, and the guy like someone in it just didn't land, and someone in the audience just goes, try harder. And I was like, I'm just like, okay, all right. The East Coast is different. Like, no booze, no booze, but just like that's
no.
not gonna work. That he's like, that shit's not gonna work here, bud. And I'm like, all right, like, and I was like, all right, you put me on Front Street, and I had to really earn it. And so like New
Yeah.
England crowds, and Northeast crowds in general are just they're a whole different kind of animal. And granted, I only got a chance to do one show with you, but that was a show for the ages. That was fun because we were both stressed out for two completely different reasons. But it was such an honor to work with you that night, and you were so supportive, and I was so supportive of you. Like it was just like,
Oh yeah, it's a love fest.
yeah, it really was. It was fun because you were stressed out, and I'm like, I know you just met me, but I'm like, I'm here for you. What do you need? Like, I got you. And
Yeah.
yeah, we were both stressed out for a lot of different reasons, and like I gotta say, like you blew it out the water that night. That was a fun show for you. You know, it, it
It really
was.
was. I mean, I had a lot of support in the audience, like
Yeah,
a lot. I had a bunch of people come out the night before, but Saturday night ended up being the night that like nearly, my whole, crew came out, and it was good. And I felt more comfortable. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I just was like I almost feel bad because like I almost felt like I cheated a little bit because I just knew that there was not going to be a lot that I would not that I couldn't say or that wasn't going to hit. You know what I mean? So
right. I mean, well, and the thing is it's not cheating. It's just like, hey, the Celtics and the Lakers, they play better at home. It's
yeah,
facts. It's just like it's nothing when you have that home crowd, and you can be comfortable, and you don't have to preface everything, and you don't have to disclaimer and do all this disarming. You can just be you.
Yeah.
And so like, and that set was magical because it was like it was my first like professional introduction to you. I had seen some of your clips and everything, but it was just like, I was like, I'm getting the authentic version of you. And that's what was really cool about that particular night. And the same thing for me, I was talking about my marriage and like me being a newlywed and talking about the home buying process and so it was
Yeah.
just like there was just a lot going on that night. And I mean, you even like, oh, some of these people, and they were being a little bit difficult that night.
Oh,
And
you
that's always the worst when you bring family and friends to a show. They act up.
they literally, I could not believe my husband's best friend was like heckling me. I'm like, I'm gonna beat this kid's ass when
Right.
this is over. And after the show, I grabbed him and I'm like, Murph, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like I would like I was like I was recording that, number one.
Right.
And number two, like, what are you doing shouting out to him? I'm the one on
Yeah.
stage. Like,
Right.
fuck you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it made me mad, but also like a couple of my girlfriends started yelling stuff too. And at one point I told my friend Stephanie yelled something out and I was just like, shut the fuck up, like
Let
enough.
me work.
Like,
Yeah. Just let
and
me work.
I'm working. Like, you guys
Right.
are to have fun, but I'm working. I
Right.
actually had to tell Josh that last night, my husband Josh. I had
Yeah.
to tell him last night. We were in the hotel at Foxwoods and he came out of the bathroom with like the towel wrapped around him and he's like, did you see the coffee
Hot.
maker in there? And he goes, did you see that they have packets of coffee? And there was one from Guy Fieri. Did you know Guy Fieri makes coffee? He's like, shut up. Like, just shut up. I'm like, I have to be on stage in front of 2,000 people in like 20 minutes and you're running your mouth about Guy Fieri having coffee? Like, shut up. I'm
Yeah.
working.
Right.
But yeah, that night in particular was a very, like, I felt like it was a magical, like once I got on stage, I felt like it was a magical night. And I've watched that set back a ton because I threw in so much new stuff,
You
like just
did.
off the cuff. Like, I mean, I had to react to Murph calling my husband Tony and why is he yelling out Tony? And so I did the whole thing about Tony versus Josh. And
Right.
I had to be on my toes, but I also was comfortable. Like, it was a weird, I felt comfortable being able to do the off the cuff stuff, which
Right.
was
Yes, and well, and it's Nick's. There's a lot of variables because Nick's there's a club like underneath it, and then
oh
and so there's you don't know if they're playing music, and then you got a hard out, and so it's like there's
yeah,
a lot of it's a necessary but stressful venue, and like
absolutely.
in the nicest way I could say that. It's just like
Yeah.
I'm not pulling any punches or saying anything derogatory. It's just like that's just the
No,
honest truth. You know
no,
it.
and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry to cut you off,
No,
but
you're good.
I I actually have grown to love Nick's because
Hmm.
I feel like it's a great place to cut your teeth. It's a great place to challenge yourself. Like, I remember the first time I was on stage there and I only had 7 minutes. It was, a few years back, and I only had 7 minutes, and these girls were wasted and they would like not shut up. And I finally, like, something in my brain snapped, and I was just like, I turned to them and I was just like, shut the fuck up. But like, you learn, and that was probably too much, but like, I've
No, it
now
wasn't.
learned
No, it wasn't.
to, no, I mean, honest to God, I couldn't take
Yeah.
another second of them. But I've also learned how to work with crowds that are like that now. Like, I know when I can be aggressive and it'll be funny, and I know when I have to be gentle. And
Right.
because it's a volatile situation too, with people kind of like heckling or talking or whatever. Like,
Always.
you never know what's going to happen. But I've been able to, anyway, bottom line, I do feel like Nick's is one of those places where if you can master Nick's, like, and the good and the bad of it, like, we had thundering music pounding under us that
Yeah.
night.
There
You know
was
what I mean?
Sean Paul music playing
Yeah.
that night. You could hear it in the tape. I tried to tape that night, and it was all you hear is
Yeah.
because it was Pride. That's
Yes,
right. It was
yes,
Pride. So
yes.
like there was just music, and you're like, good for the gays, but can like I
I
need a
need to do
tape.
comedy.
Yeah. Like
Like, yes.
I'm an ally, but I really need a tape. Like I just
Yes, I got my tape. I had taped myself as well. My
mm,
whole set is bouncing,
right.
like the whole thing, and I'm like, okay, it's funny. But this would have been a great tape. Like,
Right. And then you got the Knicks logo in the
Yeah.
LED behind you, intermittently going out.
Flashing.
It's absolute chaos. And like, it is one of those rooms that if you can work it and master everything that is like working, that is not intentionally working against you, but there are variables in there that work against you in that room. And
Yes.
if you can understand that, like, okay, there's going to be a bit of a rush. You know, there's a business that goes on after this concludes. There is a there may be some music going down underneath. There you may be dealing with tourists and drunk townies. Like, there
Yep.
is just a lot of variables in that particular room. But if you cut your teeth there and you can own it, oh my God, like you will feel
You'll
like
be
the master of the universe.
Yeah, even the stage itself is very small. I'm somebody that likes to walk the stage, and I'm somebody
Mm.
that like tries to fill the whole stage, and to only have like that set amount of space is like very can be difficult for someone like me. Like other, other comics that can kind of stand there and do their
Right.
thing, it works for them, but I'm a mover for sure, and
Same.
I do, act outs and whatever, so it's like that can be tough too. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If you can master Nyx, you will be fine anywhere. Like really, it's a tough little room. But I've grown, like I said, I've grown to love it. Like it's
Same.
become almost like a feel, I feel at home there. I feel very
Yeah.
comfortable. And the laugh stage too. The laugh stage was a big deal for me. When
Yeah.
I first got on it, I was like, oh my God, I'm at Laugh. Like one of the very first comedy shows, not the very first comedy show I ever saw in my life, Corey Rodriguez at the bar,
Really.
like 100 years ago. Like it was, yeah. But I remembered him. And I remember being like, he's so funny. I love him. I want to do that. And like
Yeah.
it was just a riot. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that. But like one of my, like we had this tradition with my friend group that we would go out and see comedy every single New Year's Eve. And one of the very first shows we saw, it was actually like one of the first shows at Laugh was
Oh,
like Big J Okerson, and I think like Al
yeah.
Park was like hosting or something.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was a long time ago, and I just remember being like, I absolutely love this. Like this is, I want to be on that stage someday. And then when
Yeah.
I got on that stage, I was like, this is dope. Like I
It's,
just loved
yeah.
everything
Hell yeah.
about it. Yeah. So
It's,
I mean, it's
and
fun to
clearly
come
it's going awesome for you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's really fun to kind of grow in this city because you get these like each next step, and like there's I'd love to say that there's like an actual process. There's not. Like
There's not.
you get good here, and then you get noticed, and you get good here, and then you get noticed, and like you just kind of keep moving up, and
Yeah.
and I ended up actually featuring for Big J at one point, and I was telling him, I'm like, you are the first comic I saw here at Laugh, and he was like,
That's
that's so
wild.
cool, you know what I mean?
That's
Like, yeah. So I've had some, that's the thing too, like what I do love about Boston is that you can get kind of close to these comics that you love and you follow and whatever, like you can kind of get to them if you work hard, and if that makes sense. But like,
right.
you know, it's just it's a great place to do comedy. I mean,
It's it's such a
yeah.
wonderful place. Like, I'm a new resident here, and it's me showing up late 2019 and then basically having 2020 not exist. But, and so like, I'm just starting to get back in there, and like, it feels, it feels, it feels like I've been here for years in a weird way, where I'm just, I love the environment. I love the challenges. I like, and especially because I don't know shit about anywhere. I still haven't even been to Dorchester. Like, I really
Oh
think that there
God.
are debutantes there. Like, I don't like, it's just,
I have to take you for a ride through Dorchester. You have
yeah.
not been to Dorchester.
I
Oh
think,
God.
I think that I did a Don't Tell show last night in what may be
Southie.
Southie or South Boston. I don't know. I don't know, but
Okay.
it's all unfamiliar to me. So yes, okay. So yes, please
All right.
explain to me the difference between SoBo South Boston, and
Never.
Southie.
Don't you ever? Nope, we're not doing SoBo.
Someone said SoBo to me
I
last
know
night.
they're trying so hard to make that happen, and I will not allow it. All right. So the difference between Southie and South Boston is not a tangible thing. It's like a state of mind. Okay.
Okay.
So Southie is where, you grew up in the 80s and it was like poor and like grimy, and you had like Whitey Bulger and like the mob and heroin and people dying and like just
I
all
rock
kinds of
Z28s. Like yeah.
no. IROCs are North Shore. IROCs would be like Revere, Lynn, like no. Oh God, no. We would never be caught dead in an IROC. No way.
This is
No.
fascinating.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to understand too, and this might be something that you don't know, but there's this like there's a divide between the North Shore and the South
That
Shore.
I do know. Yes,
Okay.
that I do know.
And like the North Shore kids and the South Shore kids are vastly different. Now, smack dab in the middle of that, you have the city of Boston and you have the Boston kids. And then within that, you have Dorchester, South Boston, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, West Roxbury. I mean, Hyde Park, Jamaica Plain, so you have Boston, right? So like if you are, and the divide even within that is if you are from Charlestown or East Boston, you go north. And if you are from Dorchester and Southie, you go south. So like East Boston kids are going to go up to Hampton to the beach, whereas like Dorchester Southie kids are going to go down to Nantasket to the beach. You know what I mean? So there's even kind of a little bit of a divide within the city itself of like where you go. So Southie is like old, dirty Boston, grimy, whatever. South Boston is current day South Boston.
Right.
And people will still try to call it Southie, but people who live there now are not Southie. Like the number of locals or natives or whatever you want to call them has dwindled significantly.
Oh.
And what happened with Southie, so Jamaica Plain was, well, I would say it was a tie between Jamaica Plain and Charlestown were the two sections of the city that got gentrified first. Jamaica Plain was heavily Irish and Latino. Like it was like Spanish, Irish, and they lived together in, I won't say perfect harmony, but decently. And it was very working class, blue collar, Catholic, whatever. On the other side was Charlestown. And one of the first things Charlestown has the Navy Yard, and the Navy Yard built these beautiful condos. And Nomar Garcia Parra from the Boston Red Sox bought a condo in the Charlestown Navy Yards. And suddenly people were like, oh, what's this about? And people began flocking to Charlestown.
Wow.
So it was a weird thing. So you had these two sections of the city that started to become gentrified. And like it was many moons ago at this point.
Yeah.
The creep has been slow. But the crawl into Dorchester, it's weird. It's gone in like fits and starts. Like you get a bunch of people come rushing in because they're like, oh, I can buy, a 200-year-old Victorian for like half the price it would be to get a condo in Charlestown, or half the price it would be to get that same house in West Roxbury. And you're like, oh, that's amazing. And then it would stall out a little bit, and then it would start up again. And now it's starting to creep into Roxbury, which is mind-blowing. They're building condo buildings in Roxbury. And I am very, very torn. This is like a topic for me, and I don't know if it's controversial or not.
It's not.
On the one hand, the gentrification is
real quick for the listeners that have no Boston knowledge. I'm gonna keep it funky with you. Roxbury is a predominantly African American area. If that
correct.
Okay, so
yeah, and Dorchester is exceptionally diverse. It's got within Dorchester, I think there's 16 different little neighborhoods,
right?
And I think it's 16, and they can be Black, Asian, white, blah blah blah. Like, but it's oddly diverse. And then you have some neighborhoods that the little neighborhood itself is super diverse, and that's what I grew up in. I grew up in Fields Corner. It was Black, it was white, it was Asian. Like it was a massive.
It's just community. You can get your ass beat by everybody. Yeah, you can get your ass beat by the world that day. Like, I get it.
Literally,
it's like LA for me.
Yes, like you really could. You just it did, and it didn't matter. Like you
Right.
could get your ass beat by a black kid, you get your ass beat by an Asian kid, you could beat someone's it was just
Yeah.
that we were, and then also conversely, we were all together and we
Right.
were all like big. We talk about this a lot. Like growing up, you're gonna think I am absolutely batshit crazy when I say this to you, but like Boston has this reputation for being racist. I did not know Boston was racist until I left Boston because the
Yeah.
neighborhood I grew up in and the
Mm,
high school that I went to, I was around you name it.
right.
I didn't know what we hated collectively was people who had money. We'd be like,
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
like, it was about socioeconomics for us, not about color or
Right.
skin.
Right.
So like we'd be like, the West Roxbury kids are rich. They get to go to the Cape. And we're like, fuck them. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
was this
Yeah. Yeah.
very strange. So when I left Boston, people were like, you're from Boston. Boston's so racist. And I'm like, but it's not. I've actually talked about this with other comics about how I had no idea.
Right.
I just didn't know because it wasn't like that. And you also have to understand too that I grew up in a household, like a mixed race household. Like
Hmm.
we have a brother who is black. And so
Hmm.
to me, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's
Right.
crazy down. You know what I mean? I just had no clue. And anyway, as an adult, and going out into the world, I'm like, somebody be like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know
Yeah.
that Bill Russell was harassed when he was here in Boston.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I didn't know. But so back to the gentrification thing. So on the one hand, right? So my parents still live in Dorchester and they live in Fields Corner and they live very close to the T stop, right? So
Okay.
it's money.
Okay. I know exactly where they're at. Yeah.
Yes, right. So okay. On the one hand, I love gentrification because gentrification means more for me.
Like I get it. We're
Property
gonna get problematic.
value.
We're gonna get problematic in this
Yep.
episode.
We sure are. So
Yeah.
the money on that house, I mean, it's going up.
I get
Okay.
it. Come on,
But
talk to him.
but on the other hand,
Hmm.
I really believe that people want to just be in their community and that
Yeah.
we should have safe spaces for people who have grown up there and who have
Yes.
lived there their whole lives.
Right.
And I'm not talking just people of color. I'm talking white people like me.
Yeah.
Like
It's just
you
everybody. Everybody wants to,
you
if that's where you started, you want, and if you want to
yeah.
finish there, like we should be able to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's like, can we just take this part of the city and just leave us the fuck alone? Like,
Yeah.
stop and stop acting these what fucking white people who are like, I just discovered Dorchester. Bitch, you didn't discover shit. We've
Yeah.
been here. Like, what are you talking about? I literally saw a tweet where this woman was like, I just discovered the delights of Dorchester, and I was just like, fuck you. And also, I'm gonna come mug you. I'm gonna jump your ass so you get scared and you leave because I don't want you around here. Like, I
Can I
literally,
can I
yeah.
just say, watching you say "fuck" was like one of the most. I was like, oh, so that's how they do it. Like it was just like you have to understand. I have that non-regional diction, and like so, I believe the New England, Massachusetts, Boston accent is one of it's a fun accent. It's
Isn't
it's
it though?
it's not
I love
like
it.
it's not my favorite. It's not my
It's not,
favorite,
listen,
but I
it's not
appreciate it.
soothing. Thank you. I like that. It's not a soothing accent. It's
Right.
certainly not Italian or French, but there's something really fun about it. When you come across like a hardcore, like just a super, like just a deep towny, I can't get enough of it. Like I stood
Yeah.
in a Dunkin' Donuts one time just sipping a tea because these two people were talking and they were just like, this fucking motherfucker. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I miss this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
it's fun.
it's a Southern accent, New Orleans accent, Boston accent, and like maybe Chicago, like or like
Yeah,
a yeah, like that Midwest, or and then North, the North, like Minnesota accent. Like those are like America's best. Like if that's our top five, you
I
know, it
agree.
it's like if you really really there. And so when you get up in the north and you hear that Minnesota, Wisconsin accent, you're like, oh, that's just wonderful. You hear that New England accent. You even hear that Providence degradation
Oh,
yeah, it's
it's an abom the Rhode Island accent is an abomination because we know why. It's a combination of New York and Boston. And I don't,
yes,
that's a combination that should never have married. Like that's just
yeah.
a horror show.
When I heard it for the
Oh,
first time, because like I didn't know the difference when the Dry Bar Comedy Tour brought me out, and we did Connecticut, we did Jersey, Connecticut, Providence, and then I had a paid spot at Laugh Boston uh, that I just worked into the tour on the back end. So I did all those 4 states in 4 days. And I learned very quickly. I was like, oh, it is different. You know, it is very different. Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Boston. It was very different. I heard the different accents. I was like, oh, yeah, Providence. Sorry to anyone in Providence,
I
but
know. I feel bad
that,
because Providence is a beautiful little city, but it's
yeah,
the listening to townies from Providence is painful.
painful. It's
Yeah,
painful.
absolutely. And I have
It's.
to,
Go
oops,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I have to say the Boston accent is actually going away. It's not
Hmm.
going to be, my generation and maybe the group behind me, like unless you have super towny parents, like it's going away because of the gentrification, because of this city. Because also think about this city too, Jay. It's an amazing city, okay? Because
Mm,
people come here from all over the world to get educated. I
yeah.
mean, we are arguably the educational, mecca of
Yeah.
the world. I mean, Harvard, MIT, Northeastern, BU, BC, I mean, Emmanuel, I mean, you name it, we're here. So you have all these kids coming in, right? And they're
Yeah.
coming all over the country. And then some of them stay and they move to South Boston and they
SoBo.
SoBo. And then they married the guy who came up from the suburbs who does not have an accent. So, like, the Boston accent is going, my kids don't even have Boston accents. Like, and I don't know how that's possible because I've done everything I can to preserve that. And
Right.
so a couple of things about the accent too. Number one, on stage, I lay it on. I mean, I go
I
into it
I know
because
you do. Yeah.
you I know people, I know it's kitschy, I know it's a little like cheesy, but people love it. They just do. And there's certain words that I do in my set that need the accent almost to make them
Yes.
almost punch, right?
Right.
At work, I do have a day job, as we all know,
We all do.
but at work, I can't speak that way. I mean, I'm
Right.
obviously not swearing. I'm a grown adult and behaving appropriately at work. And then around my children, I do everything I can to not swear and I'm not like overboard, but I do have certain words that I specifically use around them because I want them to have a little accent. Neither one of them does. My daughter still has the British accent and my son just doesn't have it. Like it's a weird,
Mm.
so I don't know. I mean, my husband doesn't have an accent really, and he's from the South Shore, and he just
Yeah.
doesn't really have one. It's just not like there.
Yeah. My wife is from
So
the South Shore, and my wife has, you couldn't tell where she's from,
yeah,
honestly. And because it's just, you don't really hear it like I've only heard it come out maybe once, like every 6 months. She had like,
yeah.
maybe it's like a full moon or some shit, or like the equinox happens, and like next thing you know, she's got
Mhm.
it just comes out. But it does come out maybe like 5 minutes after a Dunkin' Donuts. Like like
I
it
I
comes out
think
right
there's
there.
something like in the dunks that triggers it, and also, you know what
In the
else?
dumbest.
You know what else might trigger it? If I don't know if she does this to you, but I do this to Josh. If I get mad and I start yelling,
Uh,
I'm full like you fucking. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah. We kind of got a little bit of that. That was a negative experience, but
Yeah.
but not too much. But I mean, like, and me, I still have what's left of my California accent, but my mother's side, they're all from the South, so I have this weird, and I pick up because maybe due to me as a kid, I was always bouncing around, uh, between LA and visiting family in North Carolina, family in Texas, family in Missouri. So I picked up
Oh,
on
wow.
everyone's accents.
Yeah.
So I have this weird, I've heard people like, there's been moments where I can pivot from a California accent to a North Carolina accent or drawl to a Boston, New England accent, and it in 2 sentences. And it's kind of weird. It's I don't even know when I do it, but some people
It,
call me out on it.
it's
And
it's actually a really cool thing. It's a good talent to have. And I feel like on some level, like it's almost like a tiny, probably like a tiny bit of code switching in a way. Like
oh, of
you,
course, it's
you
code
know,
switching at its finest.
yeah, I mean, you're basically, you're doing this here, but then you've got to do this here, and then you've got to do this here. I mean, and that can be stressful, but it just like I have cousins from West Virginia, and
Okay.
like I'll be down there, and the next thing I know, I'm like, well, y'all are ridiculous, and like,
Y'all are ridiculous.
like, what am I doing?
Well, and like I say y'all a lot. I say y'all a lot because one, I have some friends that are non-binary, and the they them, I'm shitty at that particular pronoun, so I just say
Yeah,
y'all.
yeah,
And it's been wonderful for me to just pivot to that because it's natural for me because I've been saying y'all growing up on the West Coast, saying y'all with family in North Carolina. So I'm like, folks are folks, y'all be good, that and that, and so it's great.
yeah.
So I that though if my favorite pronoun is y'all, like because
I think it's a good one. I think it
it's
encompasses everything. I think
yeah,
it's
you
perfect.
can't get mad at it. Like
No, and it's
no one
cute
can get mad
too.
at that one.
It's super cute too. I just love it, y'all.
Yeah,
Like
it's
there's
just
something about it.
yeah, it's very like and in a way, I love using y'all on stage, especially stepping on stage in Boston. So people immediately like they know I'm not from here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's and I think that's what has helped me is like, hey, I'm a guest here. I love it here, but I'm living here and I'm enjoying myself. I'm doing my best to be a part of the culture, but I'm still going to be me.
Yeah.
Y'all will never convert me on anything. I love the chowder. Sam Adams is always a good choice, but like that's about it. Like it's
But this, I think coming out and using y'all, that is a good hook. Like
yeah,
the way I use my accent, you got to use that. We have to use the things that we were given, the tools that we were kind of God given or
right.
whatever, like, or just given. But like we have to use those things. And so I think that's smart because also too, it lets the audience know right away too, like, okay, this poor guy's not from here. So maybe we won't be so aggressive.
Right.
Whereas I come out on stage like, yeah, you motherfuckers. And they're like, all
Yeah.
right, we're gonna come after this bitch, or
Right.
we're gonna love her, like one way or another. But
Yeah.
you set up almost how the audience is going to react to you in a lot of ways, you
Well,
know?
and yeah, and see, and you've done a wonderful, you've done a wonderful job of being embraced by the city, and
Yeah.
yeah, and like you have a lot of love here. You have a lot of love here, and we let I can't skip over what just happened for you, and you just are fresh off doing shows at the Wilbur and at Foxwoods. Big deals out here. The Wilbur Theater,
Yeah.
right in the heart of Boston, the theater district, and then Foxwoods Casino, um, uh, featuring for Tim Dillon, beloved New England comic, and like I
New York.
I'm sorry. Yes, I always get. I apologize. I get New England, New York mixed up. It's all Northeast to me. Everyone's accent is terrible. Traffic, all that shit.
That's fair. That's fair.
Fair,
Yeah.
yeah. So like, so you podcast and you comedy snobs, please forgive me for a second. But no, I can't just gloss over like that. Just didn't happen. You just woke up from a migraine driving back from like so.
Yeah, I
Let's talk about that. 2000
okay.
2,000 strong audience members or even more,
Yeah.
and you got the stage that you want to work with. What is that like?
I mean, it was a dream come true.
Mm,
I sat in the state. I've seen a million shows at the Wilbur, and
Mm,
from Gary Goldman to Sebastian Maniscalco. And I remember during
wow.
Sebastian, I leaned over to my friend Ellie and I said to her, I just want to be on that stage so bad someday. And she was like, you will. You
Hmm.
absolutely will. And at the moment, at that time, I was just like, whatever, we'll see.
Yeah. It's
And
always like
so,
that.
right, like you just, and so to be on that stage 6 times, you
Mm,
know, twice a night,
six.
3 straight nights, was like, I cannot, let's go. I want to go backwards a little bit though. I need to
Yeah.
tell you the love and support that I received from this community. When I think about it, I get like choked up.
Yeah.
People, I after my first set, I was in tears because I was like, I didn't do that well. I was so nervous. You could tell, you could feel it. Blah, blah. And I called a comic who happened to be in the audience. He was walking back to his car. It was Jimmy Cash, who is
Yeah.
arguably, I mean,
He was
Jimmy
just on,
Cash,
he was just on my last episode. So great
just
guy.
one of the most amazing human beings I have had the honor to meet in
Yeah.
this, thing we're doing. And I called him and I was like, I figured I fucked out. And he was like, no, 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 you are fine. I could tell, I know you, I've seen your set. So I
Yeah.
know you were nervous until about 5 to 10, about 5 in. He's like, but then you got your footing and you were fine. I promise you.
Yeah.
And then Paul Landwehr, who's a New Hampshire comic who comes
Yes.
a lot,
Paul's great.
Paul is amazing. He messaged me and he was like, you were awesome. And he even quoted one of my jokes back to me. And he was like, I loved that. So it was like, and then I got flowers. Austin McLeod sent me the most beautiful,
Austin. Oh, that's
gorgeous
family right there.
flowers.
That's my family.
I know. I know you guys are like distant cousins or your
Yeah.
cousins. Or something.
We're cousin-in-laws by through marriage,
Yes.
but like
So
that's
he and I
fam. I
are,
love that dude.
he's the best. Like he and I have been friends for a long time now, and we're both obsessed with Prince, and we have these matching t-shirts. And I know I'm so mad at myself because I almost put mine on. I have a t-shirt that says, ever since Prince died, shit's been weird. And I
Yes.
bought him a matching one so that we
Oh
could wear
my
them at
God.
shows together, which we haven't done because we're not that ridiculous, but someday
Right.
we will. But
I'll do it with you
like
guys.
like, but I love him, and he sent me the most beautiful flowers, and they had to be purple because of Prince, and like, and then
Yes.
Emily Raskowski, who is like my
Yes.
biggest cheerleader, she called me every night before the shows and left me a voicemail because I couldn't answer her, but she would leave me
Mm.
these voicemails and be like, "You got this," blah blah blah. Like Kelly McFarland. Um,
Yes.
I mean, I literally cannot. Dan Crone, Will Newman,
Yes.
every comic, like Chris Post, like just I
Yes.
can't even name everybody, but I felt nothing but supported and loved. Like
Mm.
literally could feel like, oh my God, these people are so good and they're happy for me. They're genuinely happy for me.
And it's
And
hard. And
they
that's hard for
want
comics to do.
I know. That's the thing. Being a comic is inherently just always kind of being like, why did she get that? Or why did he get that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody, no one did that to me. No one did that to me.
We were
Like
all rooting for you.
that's the thing. And I could feel that. And I need to do one of those like cheeseball like Instagram posts where I'm like, I
Yeah.
need to thank all of you. I have to be, and I am loath to express emotion like that. It's not in my nature, but I know that I have to like just tell everyone like I love you all so much. Like every last,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I mean, the Friday night late show was like I can't, it was electric. Like, first off, the regular crowd, they're sauced up, they're a little
Yeah. Yeah.
lubricated,
Yeah.
so they're already ready to go. But then in the audience, you had a ton of Boston comedy.
That's
And
awesome.
I knew that I was coming out and coming home in a way. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mm.
like,
Yeah. No, I get it.
I
I get it. I
knew
get it.
I knew there was no way I was going to bomb that night. There was no way I wasn't going to do well because my husband was there, my best friends from childhood, high school, college. Like I had people in the audience that were there to see me and who all loved him. I mean, we all loved him,
Right.
and Tim
It's
has been
phenomenal. Yeah.
unbelievable to me. He treats me like a queen. Like I cannot express
That's
the
so awesome.
kindness and the generosity and the like I know he can be controversial and problematic, and I
Yeah.
know all these things. I know that, I'm not, but he is, for me, has been one of my biggest champions and one of
Mm,
the people who has always kind of believed in me. Like I met him, I think 5 years ago at this point. We did this show like out in Western Mass in the middle of fucking nowhere. And the two of us just started doing Sebastian Maniscalco bits at each other. And we would
yeah,
do
yeah.
anecdotes and we could not get enough of it. And we were being ridiculous.
Right.
And but we just connected and we hit it off. And when he typically, I never want to take anything for granted, but typically when he would perform at Laugh, I would host or feature or whatever. And
Right.
so when he was coming into town, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see him no matter what. I
Yeah.
bought tickets. Like I bought tickets to his show, and
Wow. Okay.
I texted him and was like, I'm coming to the Friday late show so we can go out to dinner afterwards. Cause we always try to do like a dinner after together or even
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
And I always have to take him to Bova's. That's his fucking thing. He's got to go
Gotcha.
to Bova's, which I do too. Like, I don't know why I'm acting like that's crazy. I spent a lot of time at Bova's, but anyway,
Yeah.
he, but I didn't, people were asking me, they're like, are you going to be opening for Tim at the Wilbur? And I was just like, I don't know yet. I really don't know. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to press him or push him because
Of course.
he's next level now. And I don't want to put him in an uncomfortable position or whatever. So I just sat and I waited, and then I got the text. And
Wow.
it's funny because I slept late that morning, and which I don't typically do. I am a prolific sleeper, but I don't, try not to overdo it. But I rolled over and I grabbed my phone because that's the first fucking thing I do to see who's texting
Right.
me. I rolled over and I saw Tim Dillon on the screen, and I was like, oh, like, is this it? And because
Yeah.
and I when I like I took a minute because I was like, I want to remember this moment like forever. You know what I mean? And I opened it up and I read the text. And in typical Tim fashion, it was just like feature at the Wilbur. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know
yeah, yeah.
what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I responded in kind and just went, yes. That's it. Like I wouldn't
That
just
yeah.
yes. And
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
it was the most, and then I immediately like called my husband who was dropping my son off at camp, and I'm like, call me, call me, call me. And then I called, and then there were certain people I had to call. I had to call Eric Taylor right
Right.
away because Eric
Yeah,
introduced
yeah.
him and Eric has been a huge supporter of me.
Yep.
He booked me when people weren't, and he booked me early.
Same.
Right. And I'm not going to speak to any of the bullshit on that. Like I'm just going to focus on this, but um there's like, I texted him immediately and he was like, I am so happy for you.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, and I told him quite honestly, I'm like, this wouldn't have happened without you. Like, if you
Right.
had done that show that night and Tim and I didn't meet and whatever, like so many things had to fall into place for this to be here. And
Right.
and then while we were then Tim was like, can you do Foxwoods as well? And it's funny because I had a show lined up for Saturday night and I was with Will Noonan, and I texted him immediately
Love
and
Will.
he was like, oh no, you
You got to do
obviously
that.
gotta do Foxwoods. And I was like, okay, how do I handle this? Like I gotta tell you, this guy, one of the best, kindest humans on the planet. Like,
Facts.
there's something about him too, like the kindness of
Hmm.
him, the generosity of giving me knowledge and guiding me and just like, and but it actually worked out great because as it turns out, Dan Crone, another person who I absolutely adore,
Same.
he, right? Like these guys are just so good. Like I can't
Yeah.
get over that. But so I canceled that show. He got the spot and he texted me and he was like, I'm glad you canceled. Like, I was like,
That's
oh,
great. That's
good.
great.
It worked out. You know what I mean? And so here's my thing, and I feel like I do need to say this out loud, but I understand that Boston comedy from the outside might look dysfunctional and messy
Mm.
and crazy and all those things. I have to tell you though, I have never felt so, again, supported and loved and
Yep.
accepted. Boston comedy is the first place where I ever felt like I could just be myself. I
Hard
didn't
same.
have
Hard
to,
same.
right? Like I didn't have to, I was super overweight. I was over 40. I had the accent. I was doing like mom humor. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And I never, I mean, I had moments on stage, of course, where I felt awful, whatever. But like so many people along the way, Kathy Ferris, Kendra
Yes.
Lansberg,
Oh,
um,
yes, yes,
like
yes.
people, just all these, the women in this scene who have been, Cher came to the show
Yes.
on
I haven't had a chance
Thursday
to meet,
night.
like officially meet her, but yeah, like
Um,
it's just so many names that you have
Janet
rattled off so
McNamara,
many names. Yes.
yes,
Janet, like
I love Janet.
it's so
She,
crazy. Like, I'm sorry,
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah,
no, no,
go
no,
ahead.
but I have to say, like, Cher came to the show by herself, sat in the front row by herself because she was like, I just really wanted to see you. And I was like, that's just so kind. Like,
Yes.
and she loves Tim too, of course. And we actually talk about his podcast all the time. I'll be like, did
Mhm.
you hear what he said? And she's like, he's crazy, you know. So
Yeah.
anyway, but there's like the women on this scene also. I cannot express to you these women who have pumped me up, pushed me forward, given me tags, sent me texts, like the women on this scene, I know, I want to say out loud that I understand it's not like this for everyone,
Right.
but for me, the women on this scene have been amazing. And so have the men. Till the day I die, I will tell you, I have been treated so well. You know, I mean,
That's so good to hear.
again, I'm not going to say that like there haven't been these moments where I just wanted to like crawl into a corner and cry,
Of
but
course.
there, by and large, I have been so lucky. And I do think that on some level you get back what you put out. And so I do
Facts.
I do my very best to do the same kindnesses for people and be open and be, you know, as helpful as I possibly can. Or, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my moments where I'm like, this person needs to fuck right off. But like at the
Yes.
same time,
Fuck right off.
fuck right off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I just feel like there is a karma in the world, and
Hmm.
these women and these guys, I mean, I think about just car rides I've had with like, I don't know, Jer Plopple and Chris Post, and I
Yeah.
can't even, you know, just Austin, like just the halls to Worcester, and like,
Right.
and Kendra is a big, we try to carpool
Yes.
together all the time. And we, you know, she and I are really good friends, and we talk, not, we're beyond like just comedy. You know, and Emily and I as well. Like there's some people, Austin and I,
Yes.
there's some of us that were just, it's moved past comedy for sure. And we've become
Right.
like part of each other's lives. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like for me, Kendra is one of those people. And you know, we, on our rides in, we're talking family, and we're talking
Yeah.
work, and we're
Yeah.
talking all the shit, you know. And I don't know, I just feel like, and Emily too, I got to tell you, Emily Raskowski is like one of my most favorite people on this earth. Like we just, I don't know, we just have this connection, like, and
For sure.
I just feel so lucky, Jay. Like I can't, I mean, I really get like, I just get so, I just, when I think about where I came from, what I was probably supposed to be, but what I've managed to be, and like all the people along the way,
Yeah.
I really, I'm just so grateful, you know.
Yeah. No, you've had a fucking meteoric rise in a great way. I've only been here a short time, and so and it's like you just watching everything happen for you. When Eric made a great post a
Mm,
couple nights ago that really gave me context to what was really happening. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is Laura. She probably does theaters all the time. You know, like I just didn't know. You know what I'm saying? You have to
no,
understand. I'm from the outside looking in, and
right.
so when and I jokingly commented, like, I didn't really jokingly comment, but I was full caps lock. Like, I was just like, this gives me love and light and energy
Yeah.
because, and you know me, like I thrive off that positive shit. And um I'm grateful for starting comedy in Salt Lake. You know, like I learned a lot but it was very competitive and it got very cutthroat. And it's not me shitting on that scene because it was actually a great scene to develop in because you're only an hour and a half away from Los Angeles. But when you
Right.
don't have as many flight wise,
Right.
hour and a half
Okay.
flight
Yeah.
wise. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but when you don't have as many spots to get up and not many venues, like it becomes competitive and like people bump heads. And so, you know, sometimes I didn't necessarily feel the love there. And that's not, and like, I'm not, you know, I'm pulling any punches. I still have love. I still get love when I go back home to there. But I mean, like, when I came here, I just felt a different kind of love. I mean, I already knew a lot of established Boston guys from doing festivals. I did was work with Corey Rodriguez, Jay Hollinsworth, Gian Papa, like
Yeah.
um
Yep. Alex is another one.
yeah, Chris Post, like so Posty started comedy with my wife. Like my wife
Isn't that so crazy? I heard that story.
wild, wild. And then I find out that I'm marrying into you know,
Austin's family.
yeah, like technically Austin's family, and he's like a distant cousin of my sister-in-law. And so I'm like, all right, so now like, and Austin and I were, you know, sending each other music tracks through the pandemic. And I mean, like we just
Yep.
send each other Prince tracks and all this stuff. And
I can't, like, Austin and I are in a Prince chat with another crew. Like,
and you
if
didn't
I
fucking
had
tell
known,
me how.
if I had known, I would have added you immediately. We are in like this music chat where
Oh
like
my
we just,
God.
oh yeah, so like so every like all things music. So it's Rashid Towns, Jared Palapple, Austin, and
Ah!
myself, right? And so Rashid and I took a class at Harvard. So Rashid is a Harvard Law graduate, and
Mhm.
he would turn to me, and um I have a connection to Harvard that I won't. All right,
Yeah,
so
I get you. I get you. I get you.
yeah, okay. So we joined this thing called Harvard Wood, which is like Harvard, Hollywood.
Mm.
And we were in this screenwriting class together. I mean, I knew him from comedy and he told me about it. And then we were in this class together. And we did like screenwriting together, but we are like obsessed with music and whatever. And
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna say something out loud right now. I do not trust people who do not love music. I do not trust people who do
Thank
not
you.
read. Like, if you don't have passion about music, I don't need to talk to you because, and I don't care what music it is, it doesn't matter, but you
Yeah.
need to have music in your life. Like I don't get that. And so like my obsessions are U2. I cannot, like, I'm
Okay.
obsessed with U2. Guns N' Roses, George Michael, my boy. I
Oh
love
shit.
him.
Rocket the George
Oh
Mike.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
always. I love him.
Right.
His solo stuff is amazing.
Yes.
Like anyway, but okay, so we started this chat a while ago. I can't remember how long ago, but so like the latest thing that we've been chit-chatting about is that the Foo Fighters just released an album of Bee Gees covers. And I'm like, oh my God,
Let's
this is like
go.
everything that I've ever, like, I love the Foo Fighters. I'm obsessed with the Bee Gees. Like, and now this is like, the marriage of like two worlds. Like, oh my God. So anyway, yes, which, speaking of, Jay, if you have not watched the Bee Gees documentary on HBO, you must. It
Okay.
is amazing. And
You,
it
what's the name
explains,
of it?
um, I think it's how can you mend a broken heart? I
Okay.
believe.
For
But
all
it's
the
just
listeners, go peep that. Go peep that because I want to get that popping in the group in
it
the
is so good. I want to say it's close to 2 hours. You won't even know it. When it ends, you're
okay.
gonna be like, oh, really?
Because you'll be
And
dancing midway through. Yeah.
yeah, well, also it explains the whole thing about how they morphed into disco and how they never meant to. They were actually soul and they didn't realize that they were disco until someone made up that word. And then like how
Yeah.
it connected to the movie Saturday Night Fever, which is my all-time favorite movie ever
I
on the
love this.
planet.
You're
Like,
you're answering questions that I haven't even asked yet. This is fucking Laura.
like
You're great.
I am obsessed with Saturday Night Fever. watched it for the first time when I was 12. I definitely shouldn't have. That was way too young. And I've probably watched it 1,000 times since.
I love it.
And it goes kind of behind the scenes of that movie and talks about that in conjunction with the Bee Gees. So like it's a very like whatever. Bottom line, I insist that you watch this documentary. You will not regret it. The next documentary you need to watch is called Summer of Soul. I'm not going to say
Yes, I saw.
Okay.
Yes, okay. I haven't
All right.
seen it yet, but I'm. It's on. Like that is in my add to my list because we've just been sitting here moving and getting everything
Of
squared away.
course, I get
And
it.
I should be doing painting and what, but I'm
Yeah.
podcasting because I missed it. And
Yeah,
and
of
so
course. Got to do what you
so
love.
yeah,
You Summer of Soul, and then if you have not watched the Amy Winehouse documentary,
I want to
I
see it.
strongly urge you to do that. Oh, the one you really need to see.
Look at this. Laura recommends. I love it. Laura loves. Laura loves. Laura loves this for the week. Give me the
Okay,
Laura
you ready?
loves.
20 Feet from Stardom. Have you watched that? Oh
No.
my God. Oh my God. Okay. It's all about the backup singers in like the 60s and the 70s. Okay. All right. You got to watch this. There's this one scene. Okay. It is this probably arguably one of the sexiest things I've ever seen in my life. So you have this backup dancer, Black woman. She's in her like I would say 70s at this point,
Okay.
and she's talking about like how she was backup singer for the Rolling Stones, and she's like just like a grandma now or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that anyway, so she's sitting there and they're interviewing her and she's like, me and Mick, we had a lot of fun.
Oh
And she has
shit.
this like shit eating grin on her face. Cut to Mick Jagger and he's like, yeah, we had a lot of fun. And I
Oh
was like,
shit.
damn.
Yo.
There was my husband and I looked at each other. I'm like, that was fucking hot. Like
Yeah.
these two people in their 70s remembering something that happened 50 years ago, and clearly they had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like in a way, I can't wait for that moment. And when I'm in my 70s and 80s, and I'm
Yes,
like, yo, your
we
grandpa,
fucking yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I
Pop
just
Pop was out there, he's acting wild.
Yep. Like I am telling you, I was just like, oh my God, those two did some shit. Like it was,
Hey,
and I loved every second of it. But that aside, that sexy part aside, it is one of the most excellent documentaries I've ever watched. So it's called 20 Feet from Stardom, and it is amazing. I'm like I said, I'm music obsessed. I am,
yeah,
and
same,
so sad because I'm like tone deaf and people are like, never sing, like stop it. Like in
yeah.
the car, I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs. And my kids are like, Mom, please. And I'm like, I don't care, with or without you. Like
You
it's
with or
like,
without you. So, all right. So, you brought up your kids. Who
yeah.
motivates you? What keeps you going? I mean, is it family? Is
Uh,
it is it life? Is it work? Is whatever?
Well, this was my dream. I
Yeah.
was even when I was a teenager, I was like, I'm funny. I need to do this on stage, and I just never did it because I was afraid, and and I was fat, and I was and there were that was just a lethal combination. It destroys your like self
Mm,
confidence and whatever,
mm.
and then I had like I got a blood clot when I was in my, I don't want to give my exact age, but
It's fine.
it was a while ago.
Okay.
Um,
You knew what an
and
IROC Z28 was, so like it's fine. You knew what it was, so I
I
have an
had
idea. I have a
I have some
ballpark.
years on you. But so I got a blood clot, and I remember I had to get my blood drawn every single week to actually more than once a week, but to have my blood checked to make sure that it was appropriate at the appropriate like thin level or whatever. I did It's a whole thing. Anyway, and I was talking to the guy drawing my blood, and I was creeping on my birthday, and the tears just started pouring down my face, and he was like, "Why are you upset? Like you go like 3 times a week,
Right.
so they begin to know you." And I was like, because I've not done this thing that I've had in my mind forever and ever and ever. And he was like, yeah, so you should do it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I should, shouldn't I? And
Yeah.
so I just did, right? I mean, there's steps along the way. Like I took a class. I actually took a class with Dana J. Bine. He was so
Yeah.
good at that class. Yep. I met one of my best friends in the world there. Her name is Danica. She's out in California. She and I are like writing partners. We write scripts together. We do all kinds of stuff. And she
That's
actually,
fucking awesome.
I'll have a joke and I'll send it to her and she will send it back to me. And like, she knows how to write in my voice. Like that's the mark of an incredible writer because she can write in any voice.
Right.
And she knows my voice. So she'll send it back to me and be like, no, you need to put an F-bomb right here and also take out the F-bomb over here. And I'm like, okay. Like she knows how to do that. Anyway, so so I told my husband, I'm like, I want to do this thing. And he was like, yep, you absolutely should. And my husband, okay,
I met
you know
the
how
man.
they talk
Very
about
nice.
you talk about people being supportive, like
Yeah.
and people are supportive in words. My husband is supportive in actions.
Mm.
So, for example, my husband, like, and this should not be an anomaly. And I recognize that it kind of is societally, but it should not be. But okay, my husband makes the dinner for the kids, puts the kids to bed, does the laundry, does the dishes, makes the bed, cleans the bath. Like he does the division of labor in our house is pretty down the middle. Like for example, I cannot stand to do fucking laundry. Well, I won't do it, but I will
I love
absolutely
laundry.
take care of. Yeah, see, some people do.
Love
And
it.
but I love dishes. I love
the fucking dishes though.
oh wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
most people are one or the other, but I'm a dish person. I'll wash dishes all fucking day. Love it. But my point is with him, he does the things he's not just emotionally supportive and being like, he's the one that got in the car with me. Okay, let me give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
He's at the Friday Late Show. We're out until 2 o'clock in the morning. We get home. I can't sleep. I'm all jacked up from what just happened. I'm like literally flying high. I'm wishing to God I had some friggin' Ativan so I could just pass out, but I can't. I'm like still jittery. I'm going over my set in my head. He goes to bed. He wakes up at 8 o'clock. I'm sorry. He woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning. He drove to Western Massachusetts. He picked up our son from camp. He drove him back home. Then he went and picked up my mom from her house in Dorchester, drove her to the house. He came back. He took a quick nap. He packed his shit and drove me to Connecticut. I mean, right?
God damn.
Right. And then while
Can he be my new stepdad? Jesus Christ. Like, what the fuck?
Dude, this man, I'm telling you, this man is he's a fucking king. Like he's the real fucking deal. And like we always joke around. He's like, you better not leave me when when you get big. I'm like, I will never leave you. Like it's not even a question. This man has been with me through we've been together 20 years this year. It'll be 20 years, married like 17 or something, whatever. And this man loved me at 300 pounds when I was miserable, when I had work problems, when I was, having trouble with the babies. Like this man has loved me through it all. And I'll be goddamned if he doesn't get to come on the ride with me. You know what I mean?
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to feel like I've made it until I can put me and him in first class on our way to a show. You know what I'm saying? Like,
let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Like this guy, I cannot, the kindness in his heart. And you want to talk about being a good dad? Okay, so my daughter is into roller skating now, and she will say, Daddy, I want to go outside and roller skate. He jumps up immediately and he's out front with her roller skating. Like, I cannot, he's a special person, like truly. There's something about him, and I will never not be by his side and never not want him by mine, and
that's damn. This is like this is emotional as shit. And we all know he's getting super late after this episode, so shout out to him.
No, sadly he probably won't. That's what makes it worse. So I'm kidding. He gets taken care of in an appropriate. No, anyway, I'm kidding.
I'm breaking your balls.
No. I just can't tell you how. I don't know how I got so lucky to get him. I really don't, because I don't deserve him. I really don't. But he is, I mean, like, and I told you too, like, we have our moments. Don't get me wrong. Like I told you,
Yeah, we all have our
yelled
moments.
at him.
Yeah.
I yelled at him yesterday in the hotel room. I was like, shut the fuck up about the Guy Fieri coffee. I gotta get down there and do this thing. And you're like, you know, I'm like, go do something with yourself,
Right,
you
right,
know.
right.
But I also am comfortable, and I know that I can say that to him and he'll be like, all right, fine, see you
Yeah.
later, you
Yeah.
know,
See you
and
later.
that's
All right.
it.
I'm gonna go do my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And we went out. So after the show last night, they took us, they had to put security on us because, you know, Tim's fans. And
Fans, right.
so we had to, as coming out, we were all hungry. We were fucking starving. And so they had security like walk us through the casino to get to the
That's
restaurant.
fucking wild. Well, all right. First of all, you get, come on, Laura, like security, like,
Dude,
okay, let's be real. Keep it a buck with me. What was that like?
it was fucking awesome. We're like walking through the crowds. I mean, me and Ben, who is his producer, who's just
Yeah.
unbelievably, I love Ben so much. Anyway, but so Ben and I are walking, you know, it's like security, Tim, us, and then I think was there another security person behind us? I can't recall how it, whatever. Anyway, but security has us, we're coming out, we're coming through the crowds. And of course, now just because you have security, people are looking. But all his fans are like leaving the venue or coming out of their seats and be like, oh my God, it's him. And actually, this girl got close enough to me. She reached out and she grabbed the back of my sweatshirt. And I was just like, what
Whoa.
the fuck is that? And I looked and she's like, can I get a picture with him? And I turned to Ben and I'm like, does he do that? And he was like, he can't. Like, this is too like chaotic. You know what I mean? And I just looked back and I said, I'm sorry, but no. And she was like, okay. Like I was like, I don't know why people are grabbing me. Now I'm going to tell you something really funny. This is fantastic. Okay. So we're seated in the restaurant. Josh comes in and they whisked us right into the restaurant. Like there
I
was no
love it.
line.
I
Like we were like,
love it. Love
you're
it.
in line. Who's that? The lines are for losers. No, it
Let's
was
be real
great.
though. They are. They are. Let's be real. Fuck lines. I don't do it.
It was amazing. Yeah, honest to God, I saw that line. I'm like, I'm not waiting in that anyway. But anyway,
Mm.
so we go in, we're seated, and people were very respectful. There was two people who had just been at the show at the table, like kind of next to us, like a couple feet over. There were people at the show, like kind of across from us, and both sets of those people were very respectful. They were like,
Nice.
you know, you had a great show. That was amazing. He was like, thank you. And he's so gracious and like kind of
Yes.
like, did you have fun? What did you think? And they were like, we loved it. And then there was a couple from Worcester actually. And I pulled a complete jackass move. I was like, oh my God, I'm headlining in Worcester all next weekend as they're
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to talk to Tim about his show.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm such a loser. Anyway, but
I would have did the same thing.
I
Honestly.
wasn't even thinking, honestly, I was just like,
You're
oh,
just
I'll make it
excited. You're
easier.
just
Yeah.
excited. Yeah.
So, okay, this kid comes up to us as we're like finishing up dinner, and he's sitting there and he was like, Tim, you know, I just wanted to thank you so much. It was such a great show. And then he turned to me and he was like, you were so great. Then he looks at Josh and goes, and I wanted to meet the guy behind the ball bag story. That's awesome. Like he was like fangirling over Josh. And I'm like, get
Yeah.
out of here. Like it
I
was so
fucking love
great.
it. That's
Yeah.
fucking great.
But I loved that Josh got to have a moment like that. Like he got a little taste of the
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it was nice. And then they had to go and we're walking through the casino and I had people who were recognizing me and it was weird and it was awesome and weird and it was very
It's the three A's: awkward, awesome, awful. And
yes, yes,
that's what I
yes.
call it. The three R's. The
I
three
love, yes,
R's.
that's perfect because it's so cool,
Yeah.
but it was a little unnerving, as you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like I was just like, oh my God. Like, and too, Jay, I gotta tell you, by that point, I had changed my clothes, my hair was up, I had barely any makeup on, like I wasn't wearing like I had, you
Yeah.
know, speakers on. Like, I'm like, how are these people? Not that I was in disguise or anything, I had just gotten comfortable. That's
Right.
all.
Right. 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 Right.
But like I didn't even look like I had just come off the stage or anything. So
Right.
it was very weird. But the best part of this whole thing, I mean, other than being on the stage and being with Tim and having like those alone moments with him, and like the two of us, because that was the first time either one of us had done Foxwoods. And he was like, so he and I did this, he came off the stage and I was standing there, waiting for him. And then we walked back to the green room together and we were just talking along the way. And I was like, it was hard. I was like, your pacing has to be different. And this, when he was like, yeah, he was like, I realized like I was stepping on punchline, blah, 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 like, and we're having this real conversation. And I was just like, I said to him, like, I can't thank you enough, and he's like, and he's like, I'm glad you were here with me. Like, he was just such a good guy. But, okay. So this morning we're leaving. I'm again, showered. I don't look anything like I did last night.
Yeah.
Standing there. This older woman, she's like late 60s, comes up to me, goes, were you the comedian from last night? And I go, yep. And she goes, you were fucking awesome. And she's like, you guys were great. I was laughing so hard. She's like, I was sitting next to this 80-year-old lady who kept cringing the whole time. She turns to my husband and she was like, and the scrotum joke, that was fantastic. It was like,
I love it. No, but that's what you want though, especially like, because let's be real, we're only inserted into people's Friday, Saturday, Sunday night for an X amount of time. Yeah. And so when you can make an impression, they recognize you a day later. I was on a show last night with Jimmy Cash, which by the way, we had just met for the first time on a night previously. So we met on Friday. We had known of each other, but we finally linked up for 2 shows back to back, and it was wonderful. And someone came up to me and they're like, you're the guy. They're like, we thought you were stealing somebody's jokes because he was talking about Plymouth. And I'm like, no, that's me. I do the Plymouth bit. And they're like, oh my God, we saw you at such and such. And I'm like, you know what? That was like 2 months ago, and I'm so glad that they remember me. And I was like, you know what? It was like their first date. So I was just like, this is great. If people just remember you, and just like, you don't have to remember the whole joke. You just remember something. You just remember something. And if they can take that with them and that helps them get through their day, oh my God, I love that shit. So yeah.
Tim and I were talking about this too, literally last night when we were sitting there. And I said to him, I was like, well, these are big deals. These shows are big deals for us, but they're big deals for the people too, because they got a babysitter. They went out to dinner. They spent dressed. Money on these tickets. They got dressed. They made arrangements. They parked. They walked. And so it's
post-pandemic, that's harder to do now.
It is. And it's our job to give them their money's worth and then some, because when these people come out to support us like that, we owe it to them to give them our very, very best. 100%. I am never going to step on that Laugh Boston stage and dial it in, phone it in. I'm never going to do that.
That stage makes you lock in. You have to lock in at that stage too.
These shows at the Wilbur, this show at Fox, these people made arrangements to come to that show.
Yeah. If they have to, okay, listen, anybody, and especially I know this episode is very Boston and New England specific, but anybody that has to drive into Boston and park into Boston, you better be like, if you're a comic, that give them a fucking show, because they already had to go through an exorbitant amount of bullshit just to get there. So just give them a damn show, and I'm sure they'll love it. God, we got to get out of here, but it was one thing I wanted to ask you. Your favorites? Who makes you laugh? Like who's like not necessarily your Mount Rushmore? Like
my Mount Rushmore. So Bill Burr, not even a question. I mean, the guy. Gary Goldman, I have just a tremendous amount of respect and love.
Can't wait for his new tour.
Oh, I cannot wait. I'm seeing him in November and I cannot wait.
Awesome.
I am obsessed with Sebastian Maniscalco. I can't get enough of him. But I grew up on George Carlin and Richard Pryor, the greats. I mean, Patrice. Patrice. Like,
Oh,
and he's a Roxbury boy. He was a Roxbury boy.
yeah.
Like, how do you, I'm very, I love all the big ones. I just do. And I mean, they're the big ones for a reason, Bill Burr could say almost anything and I would giggle my fucking,
Yep.
and what I love about him is he crosses over, he's not, he does it all. Like
He
there was
does it all.
nothing.
Anybody can get it.
Yep,
Anybody can get it. And
yep,
like he's
absolutely.
masterful at
And
that.
and even like someone like Sebastian, he talks about like having immigrant parents and
Yes.
what that's like, and that's very relatable on a lot of levels. And but I was raised on comedy. Like my
Mm,
parents were huge comedy fans. Like
yeah.
just we were, there was always comedy going on in that house. And my dad is super, super funny. I mean, typical dad funny, like dad
Yeah.
jokes and
Is he
stuff. But like,
so dad's the funniest in the family, or
I
it
mean,
seems
I'm the
like
funniest
it
of the
seems like
family,
you,
but
yeah, it seems like you got a funny,
but
it seems like you got a funny family. I get that vibe.
my brothers are probably the funniest people I've ever known in my life. My brother Drew and my brother Rashawn, when they are together, and when the four of us are together,
Right.
they roast me and my sister and I so painfully that there are times when I'm like, okay, we have to stop. But
Yeah,
like
we have to
they
stop.
are, they are a billion times funnier than I am. Like we just
How it
grew up,
works.
we used comedy as armor, as
Yep.
defense,
Yep.
as all of
Yep.
it. I mean, but we are, so my sister has a very dry sense of humor. She's one of those like just a random one-liner. Like she's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
big laugher.
Gotcha.
But Rashawn, he will call me and we will be on the phone for an hour together laughing so hard that Josh will come in here and be like, what the fuck, are you even do work anymore? What are you doing? And I'm like,
But you're
and
working shit out.
like my brother Drew, Rashawn and I were talking about my brother Andy. Like he goes back and forth between Andy and Drew. I'm trying to get used to Drew because he's trying to be more adult. Anyway, but he recently broke up with this girl. And me and Rashawn were talking mad shit about the breakup. And like I was like tears pouring down my face. So we did have a very funny. We had a funny family. We grew up with not a lot.
Hmm.
We grew up tough. We grew up early. But we had each other and we had as much as we gave everything we could to each other. And I don't know, we're all very funny. Even my mom came out to the Wilbur
Yeah.
and she took the fucking train by herself, red
Like
line, from Field
right.
Square to Park Street, and then walked. And I'm like, Mom,
I
you're
love the red line.
76 years old. Come on, man. Like, what are you doing? I would have gotten in like an Uber for you. But
But
anyway,
still, honestly, if I'm being honest, she played it smart. The red
I
line,
know.
right? Yeah, it'll draw it. It's right there. Like me,
And,
preferably, I'm coming from Plymouth.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking the red. I will park at the Braintree station, take that red line to anywhere I want to go. I love it.
Yeah. I just hate the idea of her being that old and just, kind of being
Gotcha.
embarrassed. But the security guard said to me, because I turned to him and I was like, I'm so sad that she took the train. And he goes, well, you're from Dorchester. You're from her. She's fine. She's tough. And I'm like, all right,
Mm.
fair point. That's
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
So,
See,
anyway, so that's my Mount Rushmore. But of course, I absolutely loved him. I love listening to him. There's a lot. I'm trying to think of like that kind of second tier of comics that I like, and I'm like blanking just because I can't think of whatever. But um, yeah, I just love comedy. I just love it all.
you
I love
do.
music and comedy and reading and all of it. I do.
Well, no, it's the moment we met. I was like when I saw how stressed you were, but I saw how much like when I needed that stress. In a way, I missed that stress because it was like, oh shit, she gives a shit about what's about to happen tonight and what like this is important to
Yeah.
her. And
Yeah.
because like, sometimes you go to a gig and you're like, all right, let me just do my time and get the fuck out of here. But then you're like, you get like I shit you not, you like kind of like gave me that fighting spirit again where I was like, yeah, this my family's here. This matters. And so like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's make this happen. So like, you're definitely I don't have to tell you. I know you're doing all the right things and like it's just fun to see and be a part of this scene that's wonderful. And thank you. Like I have to thank you and Emily for giving me my award. Which I will forever be so grateful
you
for.
know, you also need to know something.
Yeah.
Like, you got that award like really early on. Like, we don't give that out just like typically to new people like that. So not only was it like you got it, but you got it like early, like
That
just
was
so you know.
Can you explain? All right, so there. Can you?
I'll tell you. Okay,
Yeah,
so we have this stupid thing. I don't even remember when it started, but
yeah.
we have like Boston's hottest guys because we were trying to fight the patriarchy by being kind of bitches about it and being like, we initially started because we were like, we want all the other guys who are not on the list to feel bad about themselves. So let's make
Right,
a list of men. And then it actually became this really funny thing. And
right.
the mantle has been handed down. Like, the comic that started, who did it like years ago, is in New York now, but so it's been kind of handed down, and we actually have a committee. People don't realize we
Yeah.
have an actual committee.
Right, and it would
And
freak me out because so I joined the Boston comedians like Facebook group, and like I saw this like hottest comic, and I'm like thinking this is silly. I'm like, this is a fucking joke. Like, what is this? And then I saw Janet was in charge, and the second I see Janet is in charge of anything, I get fucking nervous because I know it's gonna. I know it's gonna happen. I know it's what's gonna happen. I know this is a lot of inside baseball for Boston. Yeah, but like y'all are. This is what happens in the scene here, and so I was
so
like, this is happening. So yeah, go ahead.
So we have a whole thing too now, and this is something, I hope I'm not breaking the rules by saying this out loud, but one of the, like, because we have a whole
I'm gonna bleep it out.
Okay, all right, we might have to, but we have a whole thing about what constitutes handsome, and it's not just looks. You have to
Oh
have
wow.
handsome behavior.
Oh
And
wow.
so we've had handsome people removed, like not even in consideration, because they don't have handsome behavior.
Ooh, wait.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
we can't bleep this out because fellas, we need to be put on game. What is handsome behavior? This might be the title of the episode.
You have to be kind and
Mm,
good and
come on, fellas.
wonderful, and you have to embody the spirit of handsome. Like, you can't
Okay.
just look good. That is not enough. It's about being a good man and being a good person.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah. So, and we might not always put people on that list that are what we would consider to be traditionally handsome, but if
Okay.
they display handsome behavior, they might make that list. And we used to run down the list. It would be on the Boston Comedians page, or we would do it at the Comedy Studio. And then, of course, as you know, last year we ended up having to do it online, and that was really
Right.
tough. But we have these different categories and whatever. But we take it very seriously.
You did.
And
I got
yeah.
invited to the Zoom link, and I was like, I actually was like, what should I wear? I'm freaking out for a very arbitrary contest in my mind. I'm like, baby, I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, baby, like, I got this. I guess it's a gig. I don't know, but it's a Zoom and it's an award show. It's Boston hottest. And I'm like, I'm nominated. I guess, do I wear polo? Like what? Like,
But we have like, and I'm going to be honest with you, you can be eliminated at the drop of a hat. Like, if
I
somebody
was told that.
oh yeah, like if you're in consideration, like we literally have discussions, and if somebody says, well, this thing occurred, or this blah blah blah, you are eliminated. I mean, like, it's and I can't give, I gotta be careful.
Okay.
But
I
we
was
take
just grateful to be in consideration, and
well, we were excited to put you on the list. Last year you were an immediate, almost right away. People were like, Jay Whitaker, and we were like, yep, that's a done deal. You know what I
okay,
mean?
cool.
There are some people who you just like immediately, like, that guy, I mean, top to bottom amazing, love him, and then there are ones where we fucking fight.
I don't even.
I
Oh,
mean,
I don't even want to
if
know, but I want to
somebody
know. But yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
if somebody could see our messages, and we get nasty with each other too. Janet and I fight constantly. Like, I'm like, you're a fucking idiot.
She's
And she's like,
wonderful.
you're
I
a
love
big
it.
fat bitch. No, she would never call me fat, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, she's like, you're a bitch. Like, we just have the like ridiculous like nonsense. And then Emily will have to step in, and we've got other people who have to be
This
like,
is
everybody
so
calm
wonderful.
down. It's one of the funnest things we do. And one of the things that we did last year, I think we're going to do it every year. I'm not 100% certain,
Yeah.
but last year we had the all around went to Janet. So we were thinking that we might
Yeah.
have the all around always go to a woman because it's just
Yeah.
so stupid and funny.
I love
But
it.
we'll see. We're not 100% on that. We're going to have to figure that out.
It honestly, okay, and when in all seriousness, yes, it was like it's silly, yes, but it was nice to just it's nice to feel welcome and like in
Yes.
in and me being a transplant from another scene, and it was just like I was just like, it's a pandemic. I'll take this, like what? And
Yeah.
it
I
was
mean,
just,
everything.
it felt cool to be like recognized by my peers and so thank you. I genuinely think I never got a chance to like really, really thank y'all about that, but I
Well, you're
was
very welcome. We have like I said, it's a two-pronged thing. On the one hand, we want to make all the other guys feel bad, but we
yeah,
also want the people on the list to feel good. So it's like
yeah,
a two-pronged attack. And I want to tell you, for anybody listening from Boston Comedy, one of the ways that you can be in consideration is to take a shower, be clean. That a very basic
okay,
thing that
okay.
people seem to somehow forget to do sometimes.
So
So that's
do we brush the top row of teeth and bottom?
both.
Okay.
If you
All
do
right.
both, you might even, yeah, you never know. So yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
fellas, wash your pits and tits. Okay, like
yeah,
yeah, just
I
yeah.
mean, take care of yourself.
Okay,
So
so guys, let's get Boston Comics, fellas. Let's go get some manicures. Let's get some mani pedis. Let's get let's get a razor fade. You know what I'm just saying? Like come on, fellas. Like hey, Boston Comics. Let's moisturize. We got the humidity.
yep.
Let's get some toner. Let's fucking like let's do it. Let's do it big. Okay, so no, but no. In all seriousness, last thing, if you could go back in time, I always ask this question to pretty much everybody that does the show. If you can go back in time and see a young Laura, what advice would you give her?
Uh, I guess I would just tell her to probably not eat so many cupcakes after school, and to, that everything's going to be okay.
Everything's
Everything's
gonna be
going to
okay.
work out
I
the
like
way
that.
it's
Everything's gonna
supposed
be
to.
okay.
Yeah,
I love it.
like it's everything, to quote Naughty by Nature, everything's gonna be all right.
Everything's
Like,
gonna be okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So how can people find you? What do you got coming next?
pretty
Anything you want to
much.
plug?
So putting my shows on Instagram now. I've kind of
Yeah,
abandoned my website, so I'm just kind of
yeah.
doing it all on Instagram.
We're all
I'm
pivoting to is what? Yeah.
Yeah, I just find my website to be like annoying, to be
Cumbersome.
honest with you.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm putting my shows on Instagram. That's probably where I'll be most active. I'm headlining the Attic in Worcester this weekend, and I'm really excited about that because I'm going to get to go long and do a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm excited about that. And that's probably the biggest stuff coming up for the immediate. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm pumped about that. It's going to be fun shows.
Well,
And that's
I'm
it for
very
me.
happy for you. I'm very happy
Thank
for you.
you.
Like you just deserve it all. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for just being a peer and always being ready to be a teacher and student of the game. Like comedy is it. Some people want to hoard all that information and not share it, and just get all the love and which we all love. But I mean, like you're more. One thing I loved and loved working with you was just that you were just like, hey, we're bouncing off of each other's ideas. I could be
Yeah.
a person. My family was dealing with some real shit that week,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I greatly appreciate, my wife appreciates you for that day, and so like just thank you just for being not only just a teacher and student of the game, but just being a fucking accessible person and a friend. So thank you
Of
so much.
course, of
Like
course. You're welcome. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate you being so flexible when we were trying to figure it all out. And I
yeah,
wanted you on that show. And
yeah.
it led to me that you said yes. And I just appreciate that, as I appreciate you
Ah,
as well. So thank
this
you.
is wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all, theys, everybody, just make sure you fuck with Laura. Just check her out and just give her all the love and that's it for this. So peace
Thank
out, peace out. Everybody, be good.